The Chicago Bears have finally fired head coach Matt Nagy and general manager Ryan Pace. They have both been fired, and Chicago has been asking, as in the fans have been asking for this firing pretty much since the season has begun, not just for head coach Matt Nagy, but also Ryan Pace. And the Chicago Bears, they finally cleaned house after very questionable outings, especially this season. It seemed like through the years that the Chicago Bears have been getting better the past couple seasons. And then this season, it really just took a turn for the worse, especially this season and last season. It really looked like that the Bears had not been improving like we thought they would. There was a point where, like, fun story, there was a point where some people thought the Chicago Bears had a chance of becoming one of the best teams in the NFL because of how good their defense was and how good their all-around team was. And they just couldn't pull it off. And looking back, which isn't that far to look back, many of the issues were, some people will say maybe Mitchell Trubisky, all right? And it's not just his fault. It's also Matt Nagy. Matt Nagy was an offensive head coach, and the Bears, and I'm assuming this is what the Bears thought, the front office, the owner, and the whole organization thought they were one good head coach, mainly an offensive head coach, and a quarterback away from winning a Super Bowl. And what happened was the total opposite. And to be honest with you, if the Bears would have had a franchise quarterback, the Bears would have had a good shot of going for a Super Bowl. I don't think they would win one, but I think they would have had a good shot to make a good run these past couple years. And knowing that, not only was it the quarterback's fault, it was also the head coach. You could say, in a way, if they would have had a good head coach that knew how to build up his franchise quarterback, knew how to run an offense, they would have done great. And yet, the Bears never could get on that run. And it's very disappointing to see that they couldn't pull off anything when it came to coming into the postseason. Matt Nagy finished with a total record of 34-33. His record in the regular season was 34-31, which is a positive record, surprisingly, but he was 0-2 in the postseason, where it always matters. And yet, personally, I don't like to call on people's firings to lose their job, especially when it's a head coach job or, a general manager job or anything like that for a team. A lot of those are, you can get fired at any time, if you're not able to turn around a franchise or do what you can to win games, stuff like that, especially in the NFL, you're not going to survive. The turnover for these jobs are endless, and that's what it came down to. And not only that, like Matt Nagy, and the reason I say that is just because Matt Nagy was not a good head coach, which is crazy to think. Like, he's an offensive head coach, and you could tell just by watching the games. And I remember when he was head coach in the first season, where Chicago Bear fans were questioning how he was coaching. And I laid off a little bit. I was like, it's his first year, it is what it is. Let's wait another 2 or 3 years, for the quarterback and the head coach to start seeing where they head. And obviously it's headed to this point where Mitchell Trubisky is barely able to even make a roster. And Matt Nagy is now fired And I think the main reason is because two reasons right here, okay? Matt Nagy, his offense is super basic. He doesn't do anything special. He's a very basic guy. If you're going against a top 10, maybe top 15 defense, they will run over you all game. If you're Matt Nagy, the head coach of any NFL team, you're going to get stomped. It's just a fact. If you look at the games, and like I said, I gave him, him and Mitchell Trubisky, I always give new quarterbacks and at least a new head coach at least 2 to 3 years, all right? It takes a while for everything to, be put into place and all that. So knowing what I know now, Matt Nagy never evolved his game plan, never kind of diversified how well his offensive game plan was. And you could tell that there's so many things you could say about his offensive game plan. I'll give you one example. So, like, when you have a quarterback like Justin Fields, okay? Justin Fields is a guy who can run. His throwing is sometimes questionable, but he is a rookie quarterback. Matt Nagy did not play to his quarterback strengths at all. If you watched even one game when Justin Fields started, you can tell they're not on the same page. You can tell the way that how the scheme is and how the way Matt Nagy is coaching. He's not playing towards how his quarterback plays. He's not, which is crazy because you would think most head coaches would want to pander towards what works for their quarterback, because then it gets it to where their quarterback can bring out the best of themselves for not just them, but also the whole offense, their wide receivers, running backs, their line, whatever works is what is best. That's how it is. Whether or not you have Andy Dalton or Justin Fields, you play them differently. You can't play the same scheme with Justin Fields as you do Andy Dalton. That's just not how it works. Okay? And second of all, there are rumors, I don't know if these are true, but I believe I think it was Mitchell Trubisky that came out with it. I could be wrong, but there was something that came out saying that Matt Nagy, when Mitchell Trubisky was in his first year coming into the NFL, and he was trying to learn how to be a quarterback and everything, Matt Nagy, pretty much, they would schedule to talk together and go over schemes and stuff and, try to get Trubisky better at the game and learn the NFL game. Matt Nagy would always put him off and sometimes not even show up to when they were scheduled to be together. That is a huge red flag. And if that is true, I am shocked that Matt Nagy lasted this long. As a head coach in the NFL, you cannot get a rookie quarterback and expect to blow off scheduled meetings with him in his first career season. You're asking to lose the rest of your career. Like for that time being, for whatever team you're with, you're going to lose. The quarterback is not going to lose. He's not going to learn by himself. You gotta sit down with the guy and teach him the game. You have coaches like right now, rookies, like Zach Wilson. And Zach Wilson, you could say he didn't really have that good of a year. But there's been people out there that have said that him and Coach Saleh, Robert Saleh, meet up together. They go over game plan and they talk about schemes. They talk about football all the time. They sit down, and Zach Wilson does that because he wants to get better, and Robert Saleh wants to get better and have his quarterback succeed. That's the winning mentality of a head coach, not only for just a head coach in general, but also one that wants to see their rookie quarterback succeed. that is terribly lazy, honestly. But I just, at this point, I'm very happy for the Bears organization and Bears fans that Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy are both fired. And I've barely talked about Ryan Pace because I'm more on Matt Nagy and how this team has gone. Ryan Pace was not that good of a GM. His drafting was awful. Never really made any big deals or anything like that. Khalil Mack was cool, but he was never good at drafting or anything like that. So there's really nothing much to say, And at this point, I hope the Bears can turn it around with a new general manager and a head coach. I just worry for Justin Fields, and that's my main thought process with the Chicago Bears right now, is that just watching the season that Justin Fields just had and knowing what Matt Nagy was scares me, because if he actually didn't meet up with Mitchell Trubisky, what makes me think that he met up with Justin Fields to sit down and go over anything at all? And that worries me, that Justin Fields pretty much missed out on a full year of learning how to play the NFL game. And I want the Bears to succeed, man. I want Justin Fields to succeed. But like I said, I just worry for Justin Fields.